For those of you who have never watched, well, this is our first actual video. Yeah. But in case you didn't see our intro video, we are the Popes, and this is Rooted. So this is where we just come and talk about what's on our hearts, and
we're just giving some using our life experiences in our faith walk with God to help you overcome obstacles and challenges in your life, whether that be in marriage or basic relationships, or even just understanding yourself better as an individual. But anywho, so super excited today. Got something that we've been really interested in having a conversation about on the docket. And this is a conversation of little foxes. And you may have heard that kind of phrase before, but it comes out of Song of Solomon. The story of the Shunammite lady, what she says is, catch us the foxes, because our grapes in our vineyard are tender, and the foxes want to destroy the vine, essentially. And that's, I paraphrase it real hard. But essentially what she was saying was that her view of this relationship had so much potential. It was so beautiful. It provided so much nourishment and things that came off of it, and not only could supply them, but her and him together. But there are always little foxes. There are always these small things that come in to destroy something bigger. And it's never a big fox. It's always the little foxes. I mean, you go back and check Song of Solomon chapter 2 verse 15 in your free time, but it's the little foxes. And a lot of the times when we kind of reflect back on our relationship, or we hear what other people say that kind of talk to us, nobody ever has a big problem at first. Usually that's not what happens. Usually it's a whole lot of very little things that lead up to a way bigger feeling or a way bigger experience. And so and even it's so hard to sometimes even fix what people have going on, because you be expressing your anger out of this big issue, when really, in all honesty, your problem started off with something really little that could have been addressed, fixed, and it takes a long time to kind of go through and break all that stuff down, and so one thing we had to find out, and one thing we had to realize, even now, every day, is how much time we had to invest, or how watchful we had to be in trying to kill little things in our marriage right off, and not letting them grow into bigger things. Because when you harbor that stuff, it gives it space to grow. It gives it space to just start growing roots and getting deep and deep. And so every other problem that you have always gets reassociated with this little thing. And so this little thing, exactly, you feed it.
You feed it. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You feed it. You feed it, and it grows, and it grows, and it grows. And so I know,
what
for us, we would have an issue or a problem or a situation, and whenever Pierre say, "Okay, what's the problem, Shakeen? What's going on?" And he was talking about right now at this moment, and I go back to 3 weeks ago at the beginning. When he did that first, exactly. And so it's all these little things.
And I don't be remembering. Boom. I have no recollection.
That's why God gave us the scripture, the little foxes. So this video,
it's gonna be an interesting little kind of vibe, because people always talk about communication in marriage, which is probably, other than both of y'all being founded in God, in my opinion, the second most important thing, because you need to know how to talk to each other and how to understand each other. But I understand that a lot of times as a dude, when my wife would be explaining something to me or trying to express her feelings to me, it was very, very difficult for me to understand sometimes what she was really saying, because she spoke women language. And I didn't understand women language, especially when I first got married, because that junk was weird. It was all these random connections. She was talking about stuff that was she was hooking up feelings from over here about a situation over there. And I was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And so what I had to like learn through a lot of hard work and prayer and diligence and sweat and tears was okay. What does woman talk sound like to me? And not like an offensive thing like these women, but like ladies, y'all just talk different. Like y'all have a different way that y'all communicate and express yourself and feel, and you can't say that as a man, you being a lady, and when I was trying to explain something to you from my perspective, and me being a man, like you can't say it was like hard to understand. Even now, still a problem sometimes.
What made it hard was how vague you were. Like my mind didn't work on the surface vagueness. My mind works in detail. And so when you explain things, I need like details about it. And you were more like synopsis.
Yeah, it's a summary.
I don't want summary. I want details.
It's Cliff notes. Cliff notes or clip notes?
Cliff notes.
That's what Cliff notes. Yeah, I mean, cause we had time for all that, breaking it down every step. You're like, hey, this is the big issue. This is the main thing. Boom, 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 boom. You know, let's move.
That's not how life is.
It's true. It's very true. So like, again, this is a sidebar, and you'll probably hear me say there's a whole lot of needs. Like, I appreciate my wife so much because one thing that she helped me to understand was that I needed to know how to talk, like express my feelings, understand what I really felt, not just I was angry or sad or discontent or pissed off or whatever the case was, but understand why that feeling was there. Because of my understanding of why, I could better address myself truly what was going on. And so that helped us out a lot. But that's a whole nother video conversation.
Alright, so this video, what we're going to do is give you or discuss 5 things that I, as Pierre's wife, and I feel like a lot of women can relate, have said to Pierre in the past, or even I've even said this.
Probably this week.
Maybe last week. Different things. We're gonna do 5. Just 5. That's enough. And then he's going to hear what I say, but then say what he heard. Does that make sense? So the first thing that I would say to Pierre is, Pierre, you do not know how to communicate.
That's probably my most hated thing she ever said to me. I hate that phrase. So words are coming out of my mouth. I'm telling you how I feel. I tell you what I'm thinking. I am communicating with you, both verbally and physically. Like, what more do you want from me, woman? But please, talk about, I don't know how to communicate. Why would that be something you want to tell me in those moments? Why was that the go-to response?
Okay, because how I'm used to working is teamwork. And so when it comes to anything, something we need to go do, something that needs to get done, how I feel, I always go into details. Hey Pierre, your mom called. She said your grandma's going to have a surprise birthday party on Saturday on this date at this place at this time. Just letting you know. She just called and told me, so I'm letting you know. Or Pierre, this is how I feel. I always would go into details. When he would get information, he either would not tell me, oh, I'll tell her later. Or whenever he did tell me, it was always on the surface, or always vague. And so,
did you find out about this?
No.
A couple days ago.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Because I need to know.
You didn't tell me.
Or, Pierre, how do you feel? Or I'll go into detail about my feelings, how I feel about this, how it made me feel. All these, just because I want him to get it. And then he'll say, okay, cool. I get that. I understand. I respect that. Well, babe, I'll be like, Pierre, how do you feel? Like, tell me how you feel about it. I mean, I'm straight about it. It's cool. I can understand why you would feel that way, but I'm cool. Like, it never was detailed. And so that's why I had an issue with how you communicated with me.
And so, again, I ain't never been married before. And just like back history, backdrop, I was raised in that vein of you ain't really have communication or conversation with your parent. It was just whatever they said was what it was. And how you felt about it really didn't matter. It was just, that is what it was. And so there was never a lot of back and forth opportunity that I felt, and it may have been opportunities, but just not in a place where I felt the most comfortable, which was super important. But I didn't know that until like being outgrown. But anywho, and so I always took on the mindset of, if there's a problem, I gotta fix it. If there's something that we are communicating about, like especially if it was like a problem, she was presenting an issue to me. This is what's wrong. You gotta fix it. And so that was the first thing I used to always think. But then after like trying to do that, after being like, okay, like don't hold, let me get some plans together, boom, 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 like, and it still was causing more problems, then I was just confused. Because it was like, dude, like, you say I'm not communicating, but I'm literally talking to you. Like, we are exchanging words. You're saying what you have to say, and...
So that's how you define communication.
Yeah.
You define communication as just words coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, it's an exchange of words. Like, and I was real calculated with what I said, so I just was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I say exactly what I want to say, how I want to say it, so it can't be taken the wrong way. Because then, if I just say whatever, that's going to cause another issue, you know. And so, yeah. I would have to agree, just me thinking about what I wanted to say in response to what you had to say. And then, just what I felt.
Oh, my bad.
And then, to me, the level of communication issues was bigger for her than I felt it was for me. I didn't feel like I had something I need to communicate about so highly that I need to talk about it in most of those moments. Like, there were some things I talked about or said or whatever, but like, just I didn't really feel like I had an equal level of issue or something to verbalize. Mm-hmm. What I thought or what I feel was just something that felt kind of small. It wasn't that big a deal. Like, oh, well, I thought this, but you know, it is what it is. I ain't tripping on it. You know what I mean? And I guess because it was my own thought, it was like an easy solution to me. So it wasn't something that necessarily required like talking about. And I ain't really like talking all that much like that. No way. Like, not about super like deep stuff. And I might have been super surface, but
there we go.
Yeah.
That was it. You were used to like on the surface.
Yeah.
One thing you said was that you didn't feel as though your thoughts are just small, so I'm just gonna keep it to myself. But like, that's selfish in the communication because it matters to me.
Mm-hmm.
I care about your thoughts. I care about even how the smallest thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That matters to me because it gives me more of you.
Exactly.
And it's not fair to me as your wife to withhold that, but then you want to know all of my thoughts. Like, you want to know, all of my how I feel and this and that, but you keeping what you feel to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing you said, you didn't like going below the surface. Like, you didn't really care to invest or spend the time going deeper because it can be draining. And not like in like, oh, this is draining, it's so bad. But in the aspect of it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it takes work, it takes devotion, it takes investing. Like, to actually sit there and talk to a person and like pour out how you really feel, and then be vulnerable enough to like share that.
I think there's like, I guess I want to say that later, I guess, but like the vulnerability part, that's pretty big because, and you don't realize it at first, but it's like, man, these are just things I want to talk about. This is as deep as I want to go. Because I don't feel like it was a feeling of like it didn't need to be much deeper. What I said, because I really like would sit and be like, she had finished talking and I just soak it all in and be like, okay. So she's saying this, she feeling this way. How can I do this? Is that something that's really attainable? Okay, I'll try it out and see what's going on. Cool. And I would have these conversations with myself all the time. like I didn't realize like I spent so much time communicating with myself or solving problems within myself, because that's how I had to move through life. Like I prayed, and like many of the big challenges I always face, I never felt like I never felt like I had a place or a space where I can just talk about all those things to other people. And so it was just super internalized. And I would have quiet moments with myself. Okay, this is the problem, this is the issue. What's the solution? Okay, guys, like I pray about it, then I'll use my own inner judgment to try to come up with some type of solution, you know. And that matriculated over into our marriage. And I said, and honestly, like having that type of thought process really helped me, like push through school, push through a lot of stuff successfully, because I was able to kind of sit back and analyze the problem, figure it out. But as far as that, like sharing life with a person, that was trash for the communication, like trash. And so,
that's beautiful.
No.
Like I appreciate that, because I wasn't raised like I was not raised like that. Like my mom was all about, tell me how you feel. Like, why do you feel this way? Every single thing. You picked that bag of chips. Why do you want that? Like that type of thing. And then my dad, he loves to write and express himself. He always talk about like expressing yourself. And so I grew up with that environment. But as an adult, when it came to like sitting down and thinking, I didn't know how to do that. I just was kind of move on how I felt, instead of like sitting down and actually analyzing and thinking. And so I didn't have that, and so that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like it's
never really.
Yeah, me, I ain't never put that together like that either.
No.
But even in stuff like that, like, and I know we got to move on to the next one in a minute, but like what I have grown to understand in man talk about communication is, I guess, like 3 things. So like the first thing is when your wife says you cannot communicate or you don't communicate with her, the first thing you need to start doing, because it's going to feel weird, or you should do, like I can't make you do anything, but the first thing you should do is just start talking.
What?
Like seriously, like it ain't gonna make sense. She gonna ask you a question, you gonna be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like, but she wants more. Like if you got six feet of rope to give in a day, she want all 6 feet every conversation. Huh?
That's very true.
Yeah, she want the whole 6 feet every conversation. And so
all your rope, baby.
Yeah, and so
give me your rope. And
you have to and it be tired, because reeling that rope back in after that conversation, to know the fact you probably gonna have to throw it out again.
Yes, I want it again.
It's tiresome. But what happens in that moment is the stuff that you started thinking and really feeling start to come out. And I used to be super nervous about saying the wrong thing, because I hate being misunderstood. I hate people taking what I said and making it something else, so that they can like use that against me or be angry or whatever, because that frustrated me to the highest level. I hated that. And so I would be super calculated with what I say. But as far as a conversation and sharing life with a person, like you can't do that. Like you have to let it all out, because and not let it all out in like an angry way or like, but like just say what you want to say. And yes, things that you're going to say will probably not be what your spouse want to hear. For instance, we talking about my wife. It wasn't necessarily what she wanted to hear. I never tried to tell her something in an aggressive or an abusive way, but it might not be what she wanted to hear. It might not be how she wanted to hear it. It might have been something about herself that she had felt about or had a lot of pride in, or whatever the case was. Just talk. That's the first thing I learned. And so in my just talking, it helped me to kind of articulate my real feelings about stuff. Like I started to peel back the layers of my brain and just kind of start making these connections. Like, whoa, like I didn't know I really felt that way about that, or like I've never allowed myself to go that deep below the surface in my own mind to figure out what was going on. I said 3 things.
Yes. Oh.
I'm trying to. I got notes. I'm trying to read them too. Also, second thing in this man talk, man mind. Whenever my wife wanted to talk or we had to communicate, whether it's about something simple or a problem or whatever the case was, she was just trying to talk about it. My wife was really high emotion, and so it felt like a problem that I had to like solve to make her feel better. And so it was so much pressure on me that I was like, dude, I can't take these conversations because it's too heavy, it's too much all the time. Like, why? What does she keep telling me I can't communicate? Like, I'm telling her how I feel, I'm telling her what I think. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily every conversation is not you need to get up and fix a conversation. It's just, let's talk about this. These are my entire feelings about it. You don't have to agree. You don't have to solve it. This is just my feelings. Yes. Tell me what your feelings are. Yes. Like, do for me what I just did for you. Yes. And and something like, for me especially, it was a pull because it's not something I ever just done, you know. The third thing, I just had to start talking. Like focused, directed talking, like, and just very deep below the surface kind of stuff. And it kind of is pretty much the same as number one. It's just scary because you start exposing so much. Because as me and we told, you know, suck it up, shut up, get out there and do what you got to do. You ain't got time for feelings and complaining and all that kind of stuff. You just bite the bullet and get it done. But you know, and even as kids, a lot of guys I grew up around, like, you never had time to be worried about how you really felt. It was just, these are the facts, this will need to happen. You got to do whatever it takes to make sure that it happens, which is a good thing. But at the same time, to neglect your emotional health or emotional feelings about that, it makes you an incomplete individual. And so, just start talking.
You don't listen. Slash pay attention.
Yeah. Yep.
To me. When I would say you don't listen or you don't pay attention to me, I feel like when I talk to you, I'm telling you exactly what I want you to know, how I want you to know it, so you can keep it, hold on to it, and use it for the future. And so when the situation or situations will happen that were similar to another situation, like, dude, I just told him that. Like, I just told him how that made me feel. I just told him how, like, all of that, but he not listening. Or like, you would ask me a question that I had already answered 2 months ago with a different situation. Like, and so it was like things continued to happen where I feel like I was having to repeat myself about how I felt or how it made me feel or my stance on it. Or even being at home and telling you a certain thing about how something affected me or how I felt. And then when we got in public, it was like, you re-asked me. I'm like, do we have that private conversation at home? You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. So, like, what that sounded like to me back then was total confusion. Absolute chaos and calamity of understanding. Because what I would be hearing, what I would be feeling is, let's say you tell me, Pierre, I don't think you value my opinion.
Okay.
Because yesterday, when that person asked me about whatever, and we were together, the way that you looked at me when I made my response made me feel like you didn't value what I had to say, or something like that. And so I'm like, oh, my bad, baby. Like, I got you. I won't look at you like that no more. And then 3-4 days later, babe, I don't feel like you value my opinion. Whoa, hey, I've never looked at you like that again. Every time you talk, I make sure I'm focused, listening, hearing what you got to say. Got you. Well, no, baby, because, you know, your mama just called and we had already made plans to do this, but she called and asked you to do that, so you trying to make, you trying to squeeze the timeline to make it in for her to do that. Whoa, hey, wait a minute, okay. I ain't know that was even not valuing your opinion. My bad. Try not to do that no more. 2-3 weeks later, baby, I'm sick and tired of you not valuing my opinion. Now you just told me 2 times I didn't value your opinion, and I have fixed both of those times. What the crap you talking about? Like, absolute chaos. Well, you hit me with like, I wanted to do this or I wanted to go here, but whenever I want to do something, I feel like you don't never take what I have to say seriously, or you don't never really invest time into what I'm trying. And so, like, dude, it's 96 different situations that have happened in our life that she has all labeled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't value her opinion.
Yeah, they are.
And it's like, how the world can I keep up with all this stuff? Like,
pay attention.
But that wasn't to me. That wasn't what helped me understand what you was really saying, because even I was paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I was hearing what you had to say.
Yeah.
But my attention was focused at the wrong thing.
Okay.
And so what I had to see, like, as a just a man, as her husband, was it was not possible ever for me to solve 96 different problems that she has all labeled. I did not value her opinion. What I had to solve was, why do you feel like I never value your opinion? Like, what is it about what I do make you feel that your opinion is not valued? And she would say, well, like you said in the first part of the question, I want to be able to say what I want to say and feel the way I feel about something. And A, that be okay. And 2, you support me in whatever that is.
That's it.
And 3, you challenge me if it's something that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
But the first 2 are super most important, that you let me feel how I feel and that you support me. And so instead of me trying to look at it as like, okay, baby, how can I fix number 15 of 96, I don't value your opinions? It's, okay, baby, how can I value your opinion? What can I do? What are the things that I do to make you feel that way? Mm-hmm. Like, and don't ask for, like, give me an example. That's gonna throw you off.
We got them.
Yeah, because they got a lot of examples. It be stuff you be like, I scratch my eye. You what? Like, anyway, like, but it was more about it was like, go back to the seed thing. It was a root of something.
Yeah.
And so, whenever if I would dismiss you, or I'd be like, oh girl, whatever, or you were talking and I wouldn't sit down and like stop doing what I was doing to actually hear what you had to say. And I think the biggest thing too, again, goes back to the communication.
Yes.
I never talked enough through it with you to get like a full understanding of what it was you really meant. And because I didn't do that, I would kind of be trying to play a game with half the materials, you know. And so, but I didn't really realize, and I guess like it always kind of fold back into that communication. Like, yeah, you telling me these things, and I think I understand, but I need to go more. Like, okay, so how do you really feel about, like, so tell me, you know, show me an example. It was more I had to talk about in that situation. So you can never fix the symptoms of all that stuff. You always have to go back to the original piece, the original source, because that one problem is probably super easy to fix as compared to the hundreds of thousands of other things that she made the connections to. You'll never solve those things.
And also, I just also want to make a note. I was raised in a way.
Talk about it.
By my grandmother. And
love her.
Love my grandmother. And something that she always told me is that when someone is talking to you, you look them in the eye. You don't focus on anything else. You sit there and you look at them and you listen. And that is very valuable to me. It's very, very hard for me to talk to a person if they are looking around on their phone, or if they are walking around the house or doing. Pierre would do that. I'm talking about Pierre. Trying to do this or play the game, and yeah, man, I'm listening, and still playing the game. Like, no, look at me. Like, let me know you're actively engaged in this conversation. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm gonna wait until you get done. Yeah. And I'll stop mid-conversation. Like, when we're talking, I'll stop. And I'll finish when you get done. Because I need you to look at me. It matters to me if you look at me while I'm talking to you.
Well, all my black and they go back to the raising thing. And you have to learn better ways, you know. Like my folks, we always talk. TV be going on, full movie, middle of cutting grass. It don't matter. We just out there talking. Like we just started a whole conversation. So, like that was one of them things I brought into the relationship. That even though it wasn't necessarily a horrible thing, it caused friction because it caused division or separation. It was a little thing that caused a division in our ability to understand each other.
Absolutely.
And so, you know.
But then it would irritate me when I was like, okay, well, you hear me back? Yeah, I can hear you playing the game. And then I'm still talking. I'm going deep. Like, and then get done. And then 2 days later, I was like, yeah, because like when I was telling you he was playing the game, he ain't tell me that. He ain't tell me that. Like he would not remember because the way his brain worked, although he was raised that way, as far as like being around people and like the cut grass and all the other stuff he said, the way Pierre's brain works is he has to focus in.
That's true.
And so
can't be doing a whole bunch of stuff.
He cannot do a lot of things at one time.
Sure enough.
And so playing the game, he heard some of the things I was saying.
Because I was a summarizer. Hit me with the summary. I gather these words, piece my sentences together. I got a summary, baby. That's all I need to work with. A little summary.
Hey, we missing so
Good
much. And that went to the, you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
You don't pay attention to what I'm saying.
That's true.
All right.
Number 3. What you got? Go on, say it, because you ready to talk about this.
No, I'm not. Number 3. You put your mother before me.
I hope you watched it, Mama. So you'll know how she really felt. Come on, don't be drinking that. Don't get nervous. Put the cup down, son. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No, it's comical now. Coming into the marriage, I always felt as though he would honor me. He would love me. Like just this whole like chivalry and like my wife and just focused on me. We didn't have any children, and so it was just us in this unit becoming one. Like leaving his family, me leaving my family, like and us having a unit. I'm the only woman that he see. Mother, grandmama, cousin, sister, chicks on the street, the only woman he sees, and he should be the only man that I see. And so there were times where I felt as though I would say how I felt about things. I would give my thought about things. And when it came to how we worked, and then he would say, well, yeah, my mama, I was talking to my mama. Or his mom would call. Or his mom would come up some kind of way. Pull up, call up, drive up, whatever up. And I would go to the side. And it'd be about his mom.
And I didn't see it that way. Because I married her. I chose to devote my time, my life to her. And what I was feeling and seeing was like, well, heck, that's my mother. She called, what's going on? Mama, what you need? Okay, cool. I might not want to do it, but you are my mama. Whatever, it is what it is. We went to church together. We worked in the same school district. So we had similar, like not only just we were related, but we had similar conversations that we could have about things going on within work. I was in the choir. She was over the choir. But in my head, I was always super independent. She was my mother. And out of, I guess, respect or whatever, like I would just try to make sure I can help her do whatever the things I need to do. And I love my mama, but there were a lot of times my mama, she really didn't like value your time, right? So she'll try to keep you doing a whole bunch of stuff for a long period of time. And I was just so accustomed to how she flowed that I found my own little space that I could, exist with my mama in a healthy way. And so I found that space and I lived in that space. And so bringing somebody else into the fold, like, I'd always be like, baby, it ain't that deep. That's just who she is. That's how she is. It's just like I would always try to make her come to my space of how I had to, go through life or cope with my mom. And like she wasn't like abusive or beating or nothing like that. But everybody got a way they have to deal with cope with their parents, And so what I didn't realize was how what my mother did affected other people outside of our family system. And so I lived with a person who was affected by how my mama was like maneuvering. And so because I had come up with these decisions or these conclusions about how things worked and how I was like, this ain't gonna bother me, when it is what it is. I couldn't get or understand why she wouldn't just do what I was saying about how to handle my mama. Because I just couldn't. I was just like, dude, don't let this just stress you. Like it's okay. Like, but it wasn't to you because that's just not who you were as a person, how you was raised. And as a human being, you desire to have a relationship to look a certain way between you and the person, and that has absolutely nothing to do with me. Like the way I have a relationship with them to a degree.
Yeah.
Like y'all need your own thing. She need to understand who you were as a person and how you vibe. And y'all need to come up with some terms that y'all could coexist with each other. But that had nothing to do with the way I coexisted with her.
I agree with that. But then also, there's also the understanding and respect for roles.
Yeah.
Because you weren't just living with a person.
Right.
You were married to a person.
Right.
And so that made me your wife.
Yeah.
And so, as your wife, and the role that I had become, I felt as though I felt lower on the totem pole. And so you were used to, I have to do this with my mom, so I'm just going to do it. Okay, it took 7 hours. Well, in them 7 hours, we didn't get time. We planned already to do this, to spend time together. But then your mom called. And it was like, drop what we had planned.
Right.
It became lower on the priority scale. It no longer was important. Which made me feel like I was no longer important.
Exactly.
Or, hey Pierre, like, I really want to do this. I really want to, okay, cool, yeah, we can do that. And then your mom called. Well, mom need me to go. Like, it always was like, I didn't feel as though there was a, mom, Miss King already, like, I'm going to do this with my wife. It was always you telling me.
Doing something for her.
Hey, I'm going to do something with mom.
Right.
And I had the issue wasn't you doing things for or with your mom. It was a lack of communication or respect for the fact that you have the us part.
Right. I agree. And so the thing I had to understand or come to grips with or learn was that you were the most important person. You are the most important person in my life as far as like order of operations, you know what I mean? And because you now have that role, or I'd say had because it was in the past, whatever, but because you have that role, the things that you want or the things that you desire also take a higher precedent in my totem pole list of things. And so, like, I was always just used to, okay, mom, whatever you want. But now it's, okay, nah, mama, I had to be comfortable with having a confrontational style relationship with my mama where I would tell her no, which was completely against the way that I grew up and the way that I raised, the way that I moved, because it was, you just do what I say and, it is what it is. And you get used to that as a kid, it just kind of bleed over to your teen years and, even as in adulthood, And so it became a more of a, no, mama, I can't do this. Or, no, mama, I gotta go. And I didn't really know how to handle it the right way, like with her. Like, and at first I know for a fact I probably like may have hurt her or offended her just because I felt I had to have these big strong stances or like, no, mama, whatever. When all it really took, because I didn't understand how to communicate, like at all. But when all it took, including her feelings in the decisions that I made to be separated and away from her for whatever length of time. Like,
that's all.
Just the inclusiveness of you in my life, as far as just the decisions being made and like making your opinion feel valued. Like I didn't. That was an interesting journey for me to walk through all that, trying not to be disrespectful and not to be like angry and feel like I was trying to satisfy or please you.
Being pulled between two. There's no pulling in between two.
Yeah, and it's not a pull.
No, and the enemy will take that. Like he loves situations like that where he can divide family. He loves the opportunity to do that. And so he'll take that, and what he'll do is he'll formulate things in our minds as a wife, his mind as a husband, and then his mom's mind as his mom and my mother-in-law, well, mama in love. And so you really have to be careful with how you handle those situations, and like you have to consult God. Like, God, how do I do this? How do I do this in a healthy way where I'm not excluding my wife, but I'm not turning or cutting off the relationship with my mom? You know, because she wasn't necessarily losing a son; she was just gaining a daughter.
It was a lot of adjustments that needed
to happen.
And black mamas just have a hard time
sometimes. Wow.
Yeah, it's probably white people mamas, everybody mamas, I'm sure, have a hard time.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm black, so that's the only point of reference I have.
But I also think that, I think that, like, I know for me, in those times, because Pierre was having a hard time communicating, and whenever these things would happen, I would just tell him how I feel. I would tell him how I feel. And he'll give me okay, I understand it. And he'll try to fix it for that one situation. But then the next day, a different situation. Like, it was just always a different situation. And after a while, as a wife, you get tired of saying it because you feel like you're nagging and there's nothing changing. And so it draws a wedge. And so as a wife, I started to resent my mother-in-law. I started to resent my husband and their relationship. I started to feel like the outside. I started to feel like, oh, let me get a picture of y'all two together. What are y'all doing this weekend? Can I come? Like, I started to feel, I don't feel like his wife. Yeah. I feel like his roommate. The fourth thing I would tell Pierre, you don't defend or take up for me.
This is an easy one for me to talk about. I know it's probably not for you. Just my response. Because I only have like one thing to say about it.
Oh. Well, it's hard for me to talk about.
Yeah.
But as Pierre's wife, well, I always had things that I'm a sensitive person sometimes. And so, don't touch me. I can be very sensitive. And so, but it all was based on how I felt like you were being. So, if you said something one day, it might not bother me. But the next time I saw you, you could say it and it could be like...
It was powerful, man. Just, have y'all ever watched the old Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.? And he got ready to fight somebody. He was like, ooh, left punch to the neck. Block, uppercut in the chest, break 3 ribs, boom. Man, I used to be at the house like, okay, this time, this situation, she gonna say this, she gonna feel this way. Okay, I gotta step back. Can't use that word because last time I used that word, I almost got correct. Man, I was a little bit like Rain Man, or like the butt off hangover when he got ready to go play poker. He was seeing them numbers. I was like, man, pray for me. God is good because deliverance is amazing. But it all stemmed back to just talking, which is why this is an easy one for me to respond.
Anywho, and so yeah, so I forget what I was saying, child.
You're a very sensitive person.
Very sensitive. You didn't forget. No. Very sensitive person. So anyway, I would tell Pierre, like in private, because I was always a secretive person. I would tell Pierre in private, like, hey man, listen, when we go places, this really bothers me. I'm letting you know now, so we get out there, I won't be hit with a 2-4 face where I'm like shocked, scared.
She didn't want to be out there. She didn't want to be out there making no decisions like that because there was too much pressure. Because she didn't want nobody to feel a certain way about her.
Yes, because I was a people pleaser, and so it was hard for me to say no or how I really felt about things. So we would go places or do things, and people would say something, Or oh King, all right, okay King, like just different things, and I'd be like, like I just wouldn't say much, and I would always look to Pierre like, do it, say it, say the stuff, say the stuff I told you in private, like do it, get her, get her.
So, like I said, this kind of goes along with like pretty much everything else, as far as just understanding I didn't defend you. I thought I was defending her because she would tell me how she felt. And I agreed. And it wasn't like we was out here fighting, but somebody would say something to her. And what she was looking for, which wasn't necessarily a good thing all the time, is for me to just slide in and be like, hey buddy, this is what we think.
Yes.
This is what we agree. Hit me with all your frustrations. Yes. I'll take it for and blockage.
Yes, that's what I wanted to do. Block her. Get him. Block, husband, block her to the rescue. That's what I wanted.
Nah.
Yeah.
But, and I think, like I said, that was it wasn't a super heavy one for me. It irritated me. Because, in all these things that we talking about, it feel like it's taking chops at who you are as a person and as a spouse. And so like when you always feel like you're getting chopped, you always feel like you're getting cut down or beat up, or like you ain't good enough, you ain't doing something right enough. Like that is probably one of like the lowest places you can exist as a human being. Like to feel like somebody is continuously like beating you up for good efforts that you really trying to put into it. And as Shakeen needed to deal with her own issues. She needed to be able to confront people, tell people how she really felt in a non-angry way. But at the same time, my lack of communicating to her, she'll tell me what she thought. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I see that. That kind of makes sense. But in my head, I would have so many questions because it didn't make sense. And so, but to keep from arguing or to keep from like feeling like I got to throw my 6 feet of rope out in this conversation because I just didn't feel like doing it, like I would just agree. And that was my flaw in this, to where I could have understood more what she was talking about, been a better support. Like even stuff we disagreed about. Just say like lately we've been trying to give our baby table food. And so like we've been talking about like baby led weaning and baby, like the actual master baby food, and trying out these different things. And so like there's a lot of things that Shakeen has wanted to do with Aaron that I didn't necessarily want to do, or I didn't grow up doing that kind of stuff. And so I just couldn't agree. I'm at a place now where I just not gonna just agree because this our kid. Like I have just as much right to make decisions about her as she does. And it don't matter that she the mama, I'm her daddy.
That's right.
Like we equal in this situation. And so everybody should be respected. But if I just go along to go along, then when people come to me and be like, well, why don't y'all do this? I don't know. Ask her. Because she the one out here trying to get a baby avocado. Grown folk don't like avocado.
First of all, avocado is a great starter food.
It is. That's what Pinterest.
It's good for your body.
That's what Pinterest say. But Pinterest don't know everything. But, and so, like I said, it all stems back for me. And as far as that coming to me like a whole lack of communication, I should have invested more into that conversation. I should have been more open about what I thought or why, like my confusion, and it was a lot of other factors played into it. Cause my wife was amazing, but she didn't always take stuff the right way.
That's true.
And so I'm like, dude, she gonna be tripping. Like, okay, it's easy to just say okay. But then it wasn't easy to say okay because you're like, oh no, that ain't good enough. I need to know how you feel. It was like, oh my God, I cannot be losing up in this piece.
That's right.
But
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, that was a learning thing. And so now it's okay. This is what I think about something. Okay, why? Have a whole conversation so that if we are in public and it's a moment where she's struggling to kind of express herself or they provide extra pressure, I can jump in because we've had this conversation. It's like, well, yeah, we thought about what you're saying, but this is kind of what we end up doing it. And so presenting that unified front,
Makes a difference.
Makes a difference. It makes people feel supported,
Yeah.
and then it makes my wife feel important, and it gets the people that are outside there, because they have now two people standing up saying the same thing. They're like, oh, okay, well, y'all do what y'all do.
Yeah.
And thank you, and you're going about your life.
But also, I think that there are times, like as a wife, you don't necessarily need your husband to step in for everything. Some things you as a woman, like, you need to learn how to speak up for yourself on. Like, you need to have your own, I needed to have my own voice. And so in those situations where it was just a one-on-one conversation with someone, or I felt challenged as his wife or as a person, I didn't necessarily need him to step in and do things because it was my own issue. It didn't bother him. It didn't affect him. Yeah, I'm his wife, so it affects him in that way. But I needed to learn how to do it in a healthy way. And I was intimidated by the people that were doing things because of their role, their position in my life, in his life. I wanted them to really accept me, so I was afraid to voice how I felt because I didn't want to be rejected. And so I had to learn that because it bothered me, it's not necessarily going to bother him. He might not take it the same way. He doesn't understand woman language. So when a woman says something to me, I'm going to take it a whole different way. Yeah. But then also, I shouldn't take it I shouldn't always take it that way. And that's why you have to, as wives, stay prayed up. Stay with your face to God. Stay in your word so that your spirit could be able to discern, so you don't be distracted by meaningless talk and meaningless words that are just there to distract you and cause friction in the relationship with other people. You know what I mean? Like your in-laws, and not just mother and father-in-law. Like when you marry somebody, it's the whole entire family you taking on. And so, not taking on, but taking in. Yeah. Loving on.
They be hiding. You gotta get everybody.
Yeah, it's folks, you be married 10 years and somebody pop up and be like, I ain't never met them before. Like, what? And so, like, you have to really, really, as a wife, really stay prayed. Prayed up.
Yeah, most definitely.
You have to.
I can't answer as a wife. You looked at me for like, I couldn't answer because I'm not a wife.
But don't you think it would have been different had I been more in prayer?
Yeah, that most definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, to be able to really see what I see instead of being in my flesh about everything.
Yeah. And I think people, like, when people say in prayer about things, like, I agree with the statement that you made. But, like, when you pray, like, pray about truthful things. Like, getting the truth out of things. Because sometimes we can pray about stuff and we be looking for specific answers or specific feelings. Like if I'm praying about like, God, why these people treat me this way, but then God exposed that it's me in this, I gotta be okay with still praying.
That's true.
And getting answers from God and like actually like, okay, God, like how can help me past all of this? Instead of being like, well, it ain't me. Like I'ma just do, it's always been like I ain't the one who out here doing this and that. Like, dude, no, you just got problems. Like
that was real nasty.
Yeah.
I was real nasty hearted. I was real mean.
Oh,
real mean hearted.
She was a cutter.
Yeah, with my words.
Oh, she was a cutter.
With my eyes.
I used to go cut grass every week at my house outside. And it was just like I put headphones in, like can't do it. Outside washing cars, all type of stuff.
Yeah.
Nah, car be dirty.
Oh yeah. Like, I was a cutter.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah. And things that I couldn't say in defense of myself to people, I would say to him. Because I felt like his relationship with them was different than mine. And it's like, well, you could get it for him. But God.
But hey. All right. Last one, number 5. Let's do this. 5. I thought you was waiting to say
something. You're so judgmental.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is the last one. I saved the last for a very huge reason. So when Pierre and I, even we were raised differently, and so there were things that Pierre came into the relationship, into the marriage with, that it was just stuff he was always taught. He never questioned it. He never challenged it. It's just what he was taught.
Because Jesus gonna come down and give you the backhand from death. It's gonna be like, ah, don't you ever talk to your people like this. What is wrong with you, disrespectful ingrate? Like, Jesus literally was gonna come out of heaven riding a horse before rapture, just to slap me specifically.
Oh, I cannot.
Yeah, that was my fear. Jesus was gonna literally come out of heaven and murder me for having anything to say back to anybody, because homies didn't play that.
He just okay. You said do that, I do it. I do it right now.
Sure
I don't ask no questions.
Who?
I do
Disrespect.
So decisions that I made while I was exploring Kenya and trying to understand Kenya more. Pierre will always have like this very firm, like, you going to hell. You just going straight to hell for that. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Like, I'm trying to understand. Well, you just going to hell. And so I'm like, Pierre, well, I really want to get a tattoo. Like, I always felt like whatever it was, if it was outside of what he was taught, outside of that little box,
yes, sir.
That he was in, I was making a circle, but I meant box. If it was outside of that, then he always gave me like this very disgusted, like, who raised you look. And I always felt like I had to hide that part of myself. Like, I had to hide that side and present this side to him. And so I had to be a certain type of way around him and his family and his people, because they raised him, so they think the same way. And then when I wasn't around him, I could be myself. Like, I could explore these things, like getting a tattoo or like getting piercings. Like, I can do that because he is so against that. And I always felt like Pierre was judging me. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I always felt like who I was or the thoughts that I had, I couldn't talk to him about it or present it to him because of that box that he lived in and how he would look at me.
Yeah. Because this was the box that kept you safe from Jesus slapping you with fire. Everything outside the box. Grounds for fire or death slapping. But, I mean, spot on. That's what I was taught. Been in church my literally entire life. I probably was born in church. I don't know if that's true or not, but and that was just, I mean, I had some old school cats, my granddad and them, like older preachers, like, they weren't going for that stuff. Like, I think women had just maybe started wearing like pants and stuff, you know, when they started preaching. Like, they weren't that hardcore, but they was not playing games. And so there were a lot of things that were just worldly. Sinners did it. That was how it was turned. And like, and I'm not even one of them people, because I believe what the Bible says is true. Like, if you are a person that commits sin, that is, he calls that to being a sinner. And so there are things that are, you know, sinner is just a term. But like how that level of just looking at certain things that people did and how bad it was something that I had to deal with. Like, that was something that I was just ingrained with from a kid. And so it felt like so much unsafe territory to walk in, because I'd always been trained that people that lived in that kind of territory live more sinful lives. That's just facts. And what facts about what I was taught. And then too, like, feeling God called me to minister and preach. Like, there was a certain idea of what I assumed a pastor's wife and a pastor's like family system instruction relationship looked like. My granddaddy was a pastor, he was married. My mama was married to a pastor. Like, I've grown up in this system for so long that I was trying to replicate that to its fullest extent in my own life. Like, I didn't hear my grandma and granddad talking about getting tattoos. The only thing I heard my granddad say was this, done deal. And my grandma probably got a lot of stuff that she never had wanted to do, never talked about, never did. Like, just because how my granddad felt about it. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But it was so many conversations I never really heard being had. Yeah. And so it just was uncomfortable because I didn't know how to communicate. It just was it is what it is, it ain't what it ain't. Ain't really much just talk about it. Ain't no, I lived in a space a lot of times like it ain't about opinion and how you feel. It's just facts and ain't facts. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I'm still like that about certain things now. But that was my space. And so like, and then trying to, having her talk about that stuff was very uncomfortable time in our marriage, but at the same time it helped me like really get in the scripture, really like dive into the word of God for myself personally, not just believe something because it's what I always heard, because in the contradiction I was hearing a lot of other things too. Like I was hearing that, oh man, it's like, especially like in like white churches or like predominantly white settings, people, these cats tattooed, pierced up, like leading praise and worship, and like these, and like you'll go, like we were going to like the Wesley and stuff, like people were like way different, like nose piercings, tats, a bunch of stuff, but you really got in there and do praise and worship, and you felt the presence of God exist like there, like, and it was like, man, this don't make sense, because these don't look like people that I've always been taught that the presence of God won't settle with, you know. And so like that was a space where it made me just challenge a lot of the stuff that I felt and that I thought about everything, you know.
Yeah, you had a religion mindset.
Yeah. It was straight Pharisee status, you know, doing a whole bunch of stuff to look a certain way, and so I don't know. It was, that whole being judgmental thing was hard. And then too, like another feeling I remember having was, I don't want her to desire to do something so left field where she can't be reined back in. Like, because it got to a point where it's just like, one thing after another, more, I want more of this, more tattoos, more piercings. Oh, I want to try this, I want to try, like, and it was these things that was like, what is she doing? Yeah. Like, she's going to hell in a handbasket. Like, I was afraid for her soul, man. I was so scared for her soul. I'm like, Jesus, please, Jesus, just save her soul, Jesus. Why is she like this, Jesus? I did not marry this woman, Jesus. But that whole being super like judgy, like pushed her to, I feel like pushed her to certain limits. And so just was just a big mental flip, really big mental flip for me. And I'm not God. I had to understand that even though we are one and we are married, it was the things that Shakia was doing, if they were outside of the realm of what God had desired for her, I had to trust in Him and the fact that He would pull her back in as He saw fit. It was not my job to be the one to be like, hey, watch out now. Like, we had conversation and we talk about, you know, things that we like and dislike and stuff like that. And like, I'm her husband, and certain things I say, it matters to, like, and vice versa, you know.
Oh yeah.
But that was not my responsibility to keep her reined into this particular frame so that she wouldn't go past certain things. And then,
yeah, I mean, because I don't know, as a wife, as a partner, as a person in this marriage, you want to feel like you can be yourself.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you still living a life that's pleasing to God. So, those were just five things that I would say to Pierre. And
she was
then,
cutting me with.
I mean, you know, and these were things that, I mean, there were other things. Now. A whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, most definitely. This is not like a top five.
No, it's just 5 things that came to our mind. And there are still things now. I don't feel like he judges me now, but I'm different now. I know it's hard better now.
Yeah.
I understand it's hard better now.
Because I started talking.
That's right.
If I get one piece of advice other than reading scripture and, you know, learning, getting God for yourself, but the biggest thing in like building your relationship is like start talking. And like, don't be, this not any time to be like silly or crazy, but I actually have like purposeful, pointed, directed conversations and make that space safe.
That's right.
Because like one of my biggest obstacles I ever had to overcome, just in my own internal, was I value my thoughts. How I felt was sensitive to me. And so when I gave you my everything that was within me, I wanted that space to be safe. I didn't want to feel like you were judging me, or like you were gonna make fun of me, or you were gonna call me stupid, or you were gonna bring some hostility towards me for me telling you how I really felt. That was just gonna cause me extra grief later on in the day of my life. And so like make sure that space is conducive to that. Like come up with some different strategies. Like, you know, we had to do like a conversation cup one time. We just put a bunch of things that we were thinking and feeling inside of a cup, and one day a week we'll get it out, like pull these things out, and we'll share these things with each other, you know. Or somebody, when we first started dating, they told us about what was a conversation wheel. Like you will say something that you were feeling, then the other person will respond like, this is what I hear you saying to me. Is this true?
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one for me. And then how does that, you know, when I do it, how does it make you feel? And so, again, like we're not like counselors or nothing like that, but just we've been through too much to not have learned something. So we just want to help. So I mean, there are a lot of different tools you can use. Pinterest is always, you know, dope, and Google, you can Google anything.
Or the simple things.
Or talking to other people.
Yeah, but just pause the TV. Put your phone down.
Yeah.
Like, and just talk to each other.
Go outside.
Go outside. Get away. Like, go deeper than the norm.
So appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Looking forward to next week.